Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or whatever time it is when you guys are watching. I want to try and get on as much as I can and give these give these daily updates because there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world right now. Everybody's focused right now on the Middle East, and that's right and proper because that is going absolute carnage and chaos, and there's going to be a lot of fallout here in the United Kingdom. What I wanted to talk about is the crisis that is brewing in the United Kingdom right now, and I struggle to contain myself sometimes when I look at the absolute incompetence of the people who are perceivably running the country right now. So what I'm going to do in this live stream, we're just going to talk about Britain and some of the things that I see coming in the future. I've got a few videos to share with you guys as well. But ultimately, guys, it does not look good. It doesn't look good. So we've all felt these things brewing over the last certainly 5 years. If you grew up where I grew up in Rotherham, you felt them excuse me, you felt them brewing a lot longer. It's the unease on our streets, the whispers in communities, the flashpoints that erupt seemingly out of nowhere, knife attacks, absolutely soaring. So much stuff, crime rate, attacks, violence. And when we hear the government talk about communities, I don't know if you understand this. I'm sure you do if you've watched my previous videos. When the government say communities, what they mean is foreign people. That's what they mean, foreign people. So anytime you hear anytime you hear somebody use the word communities, literally just change that word out with foreign people who live in the United Kingdom. There've been evacuations for bomb threats. There've been lockdowns, school lockdowns. More and more schools are now going into lockdowns. Knife crime outside schools. This has not had remotely enough media attention, right? There was a man, and you guys know because we talked about it, there was a man in Scotland who stabbed 2 people, allegedly, reportedly, right, in Edinburgh, then barricaded himself in a flat. But the worst thing about that incident, he tried to get into a primary school previously. I honestly, we are so close. We're so close to a tipping point. It's unbelievable. And these are all leaving families huddled in fear. We have this other thing going. I'll share some videos with you guys. We have this other thing going around as well called school wars. I would say that school wars is near peer adversaries, cyber warfare, trying to start a civil war in the United Kingdom. That's what I'd say that is, guys. That is what I would absolutely say that is. So these fractures and these divisions have been widening since, I don't know, call it 2022. They've been widening for a long time, right? It's hard to put your finger on the exact, but they've been widening. Now, a lot of these are STEM and the visual and the visualization of this it's very easy. It's the boats, right? I know there's more problems in the United Kingdom. I do. I absolutely understand that. So when, somebody in the chat might be saying, oh, but Sean, legal migration, and I get that. And that's true. But what I'm talking about here is if we cannot do something as simple, right? If we cannot do something as simple as stopping a rubber dinghy from coming to the shores of Britain with 50, 60, 70, 80 unknown men, maybe one woman, how can we be expected as a country to go on and to be able to do anything else? So until we can stop the boats, which I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen until maybe 2030 or something. Until we can stop the boats, things are going to get worse. If we can stop the boats and people can see we've stopped the boats, right, that's the first thing. Then you need to deal with the shitstorm that you've already got, right? Now, I want to be quite clear. I'm not blaming desperate people fleeing war. Trust me, I fled Ukraine. Well, I didn't flee. I left Ukraine in I think it was maybe April 2022, maybe end of March, April time, and I left Ukraine. I left Ukraine with the refugees. When I was going into Ukraine, all through Poland, the train stations, it was just full. It was just full of women, children, and like really old men who could barely walk. And when you think of refugees, that's what I think of refugees. These men that are coming over, I struggle, I struggle to say that they are refugees, but whatever. Now, the sheer scale, right? The sheer scale that we are talking about, unchecked, unmanaged, has absolutely strained everything in the United Kingdom, from housings, schools, NHS, utilities. Nobody talks about utilities. So water, right? We all drink water. The more people that are in this country, the more strain on that water supply. And if those people are not paying into the system, then they're not contributing to that water system. So the water system is flawed as it is, like ridiculously. So the water system in the United Kingdom is getting no extra money, but it has to give more water. The social fabric at this point in the United Kingdom, it's tearing itself apart. It is. It's really tearing itself apart. Already this year, I think more than 2,000 people have already come to the United Kingdom. The makeshift camps in outside Dunkirk are swelling. Recent reports said there are over 4,500 people in these camps now. And for those of you guys who've been following me for a while, you guys know I've been out to those camps and I've seen them. I don't blame the French, guys. I do not blame the French. This problem is absolutely self-inflicted. So, these migrant camps are swelling, and that's only going to get bigger when now the warmer weather's coming. They're all waiting their turn to cross the channel into the United Kingdom. Numbers that outpace even the highs of 24 and 25 when resources are stretched thin, when integration lags behind the influx, resentment brews. And that's the problem here, the resentment. Now, if it was the case, right, that these people coming to the United Kingdom, they were making everybody's life better. If, like, for example, when the Romans came to Britain, right, they gave us roads, sanitation, rule of law. If people in the United Kingdom could see things actually getting better, there wouldn't be a problem. But we don't see that, do we? We see 2 Afghan migrants arrested for this particular crime against this particular girl. Eritrean migrant. And it's just constant. And this is, the resentment is building up. And very simple, without stopping the boats, it's just going to continue. Now, I'm not under any illusion. I don't think it's going to be stopped. Maybe 2030. People who've lived here, who were born here, predominantly white Christian British, feel absolutely overlooked. They feel like they are a second-class citizen in their own home. We are seeing other cultures clashing on the streets now. Afghans and Pakistanis are fighting. A couple of years ago in, I think it was Leicester, there was Indians and Pakistanis fighting over a cricket game. You know, we have Iranian diaspora now on the streets, and very soon I think they're going to come into contact with the if we're talking about the tensions in the Middle East, they're going to come across the pro-Islamic regime protesters, and there's going to be a scrap. So all these things that are happening in other parts of the world, they are being imported here now. This is all fueled as well by, you know, near peer adversaries. I do believe that in other places of the world, whether that's, well, maybe not Iran anymore, you know, other places in the world, Iran, China, Russia, North Korea, there will be bot farms. Very easy to set up. I mean, you guys can see, like, there's videos of these online. You know, you get a room, you've got 100 staff in that room, 50 on that side, 50 on that side, all, you know, desks, they've all got computers. On those computers, you know, they've got maybe 10 different social media profiles, you know, maybe 20, I don't know. You know, and what they will do is they will be generating memes, they will be commenting, and they will be turning people online. They do it, you know, en masse, you do this online. And they will be, you know, driving that foreign influence because they want to see civil war in the United Kingdom. I'd say a lot of these are, you know, I'd say a lot of these bot farms are Russian. We've seen the sparks already in the United Kingdom. And I think I know there's only going to be more, you know, protests turning violence, you know, mosques, churches, neighborhoods are now divided by suspicion. In diverse areas, you know, like Alum Rock. Remember Alum Rock, where there was the there was a stabbing in Alum Rock. The two people, there was a stabbing in Alum Rock a couple of days ago. There's literally graffiti on the walls in Alum Rock that says "No white people, no white people." Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine, like, the 1945 veterans coming over after the defeat of the Germans? Can you imagine them coming back to this? I'd be honest with them. I'd say, lads, be careful what you're fighting for. Whether it's an unexplained stabbing or a device that's been found, these local stories now are becoming more and more common. We live in an absolute powder keg in the United Kingdom. We do. We live in an absolute powder keg in the United Kingdom. Everybody is raising the questions: why is this continuing? Why are we continuing this? You know, whether global conflicts are seeping into our backyards, more people are understanding that they are. You know, if you add in the shadows of the Iran war, the warnings of activated sleeper cells, hybrid warfare, the anxiety, national anxiety, absolutely rockets. What if the next incident, like, you know, the incident in, where was it? In Edinburgh. Like, what do you think would be happening right now? And I dread to think, I mean, I'm going cold even thinking about this. What do you think would have happened if that man had made it into that nursery? Like, what do you think would have happened if that man in Edinburgh the other day did make it into the nursery? Can you imagine right now how people would be feeling? The fact that he didn't make it into the nursery shouldn't lower the threats there. That should heighten it, right? Oh, it's okay, he didn't make it in. Yeah, but he fucking tried. Oh, don't worry, he didn't get in. it's just so insane. You know, and he was like laughing at the window. What if the next incident is not isolated? What if the next incident tips us into a broader civil conflict between communities, pitting neighbor against neighbor in a cycle of retaliation, fear, and violence? Because that's where I think we're heading. I don't see an off-ramp. If there is an off-ramp, it will start with closing the borders, stopping the boats. Until that happens, there is no hope of an off-ramp, guys. There's no hope of things not going that way. It's not just me saying this. There are many other, you know, commentators, analysts who are looking at the situation. I just spoke, literally, you heard my phone go then. That was... Okay, so that was a good friend of mine, and he was the previous Special Forces liaison officer to the counter-terrorism, to the Met Police, basically, counter-terrorism teams. And I'm literally just talking to him about this, and we're like, yeah, there's no off-ramp. Now, this is not scaremongering. I'm pointing out the facts. All these things are real, okay? All these things are real. All the problems that we have right now are real. Yes, the media right now is fixated on the mass incompetencies of the British military. Not the British military, I say, the government to equip the British military. Listen, I'm not a naval guy. I'm not. I didn't realize how much of a bad shape the Royal Navy was in. Cuts after cuts after cuts after cuts. Till now, I mean, listen, Britannia once ruled the waves. I don't think they rule the waves anymore, guys. I don't think they rule the waves anymore. Right, I've got a couple of videos to share with you guys. I'm going to start with this one. So this is our Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy.
And therefore, defensive action.
Right. So this, look, David Lammy, Deputy Prime Minister. So this guy is second in charge of our country. Listen to what he says.
There's a fundamental basis on which we do this, and that it is legal. And therefore, defensive action where we are being attacked, it is entirely legal to protect our people and protect our staff. And therefore, all operational capability is available to us in those circumstances.
So the UK could attack Iranian missile sites from our bases?
I'm not here to act as a lawyer, but I think...
Just so everybody knows, he is a lawyer. Just so everyone knows, he is a lawyer.
Your viewers will understand that in response to being attacked, yes, we can take down sites that are anticipating attacking our people across the region.
So the UK would fire at an Iranian missile base on the suspicion that it was about to fire at us?
Well, you will recognize that we have satellite capability, we have intelligence capability.
I understand.
I would argue that David Lammy's comment about having intelligence capability would be something that would be a desired strength.
No, but it's about the anticipation. It's about the anticipation. So it wouldn't have had to fire. It could do it. We could fire at an Iranian missile base because we anticipate that it will fire against us.
It is my understanding that that would be legal.
Okay, so what David Lammy is saying there is, and I'm just, the reason I'm sharing this video, because I want everybody to understand the context of what he's just said. If that happens, then that would mean that that Britain now is actively involved in this war, striking targets in Iran. How do you think the pro-Iranian regime that are living in the United Kingdom would react to that? And again, David Lammy is the gift that keeps giving. Because I've got another clip of him here.
Sent frigates to the regions.
So this is another clip of David Lammy. Remember, this is the second in command of our country. So very soon, you... Sorry. Very soon, I can't. Very soon, you could see David Lammy in military fatigues, you know, in a military jacket, walking with the troops going, yes, yes, yes. So I'm going to play this video. This is, remember what we said earlier about David Lammy saying he's got intelligence capabilities?
Side our allies, I should say, because Cyprus is part of NATO.
Okay, just so everyone knows, Cyprus is not part of NATO. Nope. Cyprus is definitely not part of NATO.
Because Cyprus is part of NATO, the French, the Germans and others have also sent frigates to the region to support those in Cyprus. Well, the safety of that base is essential, and it's not just a base that serves the United Kingdom, it serves the region, and of course we work very much with our allies because Cyprus is a NATO country.
Nope, it's not. It's absolutely not a NATO country, guys. So putting this into the context of what we've been talking about on this live stream, these are the people that perceivably are in charge of the United Kingdom. So, like, you know, when they go to these meetings, you know, when David Lammy is on a, you know, he's gone to a meeting or something and, you know, whatever. How do you think they are responding in those meetings? Like, how do you think David Lammy is responding in those meetings? Do you think he's all over it and he's clicking and he's dropping things down? He's seeing alternate angles. He's understanding culture. He's understanding capability. He's thinking how much these things cost. He's thinking about bases. He's thinking about logistics. Or do you think he's just trying to get through day by day? Right, guys, listen, I've got so many videos to share with you guys today. Yeah, we're all saying the same thing, guys, okay? Cyprus is one of 4 European... Oh, let me get the chat on. Cyprus is one of 4 European Union member states which is not a member of NATO, and the only one not to participate in NATO Partnership for Peace. So, yeah, David Lammy really isn't. Toxic Goyhole is saying, seeing England, Wales and Scotland, Northern Ireland are the United Kingdom's not kingdom. I would say we're not very united. I would say we are just a kingdom right now. I would say we're just a kingdom right now. Guys, Labour is well and truly over, never to be seen again. What fun? Freemank Union, I think, is that right? Freemank Union, what a fantastic thumbnail you have. Right, I've got more videos to share with you guys. Hang on. I've got more videos.
We do have a government now that cannot get a battleship ready and can't even get an aircraft off the ground in time because they hadn't given the pilot enough rest.
Fucking hell! That we will go to war with Russia and we will send the military. Honestly, just say that, guys. Say that to yourselves there. Nick Ferrari's great. He's great, right? Listen, right. This is the state of Britain right now, and you think we're going to stop the boats?
We do have a government now that cannot get a battleship ready and can't even get an aircraft off the ground in time because they hadn't given the pilot enough rest. And the Deputy Prime Minister didn't even know how many people were on board. Let's look it up and get the number ourselves. It'll be somewhere in the region of 200 to 300. and they were left reportedly banging on the windows, some of them banging on the windows in panic because they weren't told what was going on. Imagine you're stuck on an aircraft in a very hostile zone, and you can't get off the aircraft. I mean, it's bad enough being stuck in a hotel or an airport, but at least you can move about a bit. You're sitting and no one is telling you why you're not taking off.
Can you imagine what an absolute shambles? Honestly, I should run the country. Me, on my own, Raven, dictator. Everything would be sorted. Everything would be sorted. I would rule with an absolute iron fist. I'd abolish Parliament. I would just say, look, everybody, throw your decisions at me. Give me 30 seconds to think about it, and I'll deal with it. We would be more productive within a week. We would be a more productive country within a week. We would not be a shambles. We would not be a laughingstock. We would be a force to be reckoned with. We are an absolute joke right now. Can you imagine that, guys? You're on this flight. I think it was in Oman. You're there. You fled Dubai or whatever. Yeah, I think Dubai or wherever it was. You're on the plane. The plane that, right, don't worry, we're sending planes to come and evacuate you. Yeah, the pilot has to go and have a little nap for 8 hours. He has to have his 8 hours sleep. No, it's health and safety. I told you, the downfall of Europe is going to be it's our own bureaucracy. Can you imagine the world? Can you imagine when the, if we're in like a hot war, and I don't think this is going to be the case, but if we're in a hot war with Russia and they're sending bombers over, deploy all squadrons. We can't, Prime Minister. Why not? They've not had their 8 hours sleep. Okay, when can they deploy? Well, they've only just gone to bed, so 8 hours, I guess. Okay, right. In 8 hours, deploy all squadrons. Well, actually, it's going to take them probably an hour to get back, an hour to get briefed. Okay, deploy all squadrons in 12 hours. Yeah, the bombing raid's going to be over by then, right? There was a moment in the Battle of Britain, and Britain was getting a pounding. We were getting an absolute pounding, and we did. Britain took an absolute beating off the Germans. The Germans were bombing the shit out of us. And on this particular day, I don't actually know if you guys know how close the RAF was to being defeated. The Germans were bombing initially RAF bases, and we were so close to going down. But then they changed their tactics and they started to bomb London and like other towns and cities. And it was that actually saved the RAF, because they had a little respite. They managed to get up there and they managed to, they managed to continue the fight. Anyway, there was this particular day when the Luftwaffe came over, and I mean, there was like hundreds of airplanes in the sky, maybe even hundreds of Spitfires and Hurricanes. They were like dogfights all over the southeast of Britain. And on this one particular day, Winston Churchill was in Bomber Command, or like the command center. And can you imagine that? Can you imagine that, right? You're in there, you're in Bomber Command, and you're doing all this shit, and you're trying to send squadrons and intercept. And Winston Churchill just turns up for a visit, and all this shit's kicking off. Can you imagine the stress? Anyway, on this particular day, Winston Churchill asked how many aircraft we have in reserve. And the ops officer, the duty commander, whatever his name was, whatever his role was, imagine the stress, right? Battle of Britain, 1940, I don't know, 1943, 1944, whatever it was, 1942. You're in the ops room, right? One of the biggest attacks Britain's seen. Guess who walks through the door? Yeah, Win is here. Yeah, old Win is here, right? And Winston Churchill asked the ops officer, he said, how many aircraft do we have in reserve? And the ops officer said, none, every aircraft is in the air. Do you think those guys bothered about their 8-hour sleep? Or do you think they thought, right, you know what? We have an empire to defend. I don't care about my 8 hours sleep. I'm going up there and I'm going to shoot me some German. I'm going to get me some Messerschmitt. I'm going to get me some Droyner. It just fascinates me how bureaucracy. We are going to lose to the Russians, guys, because of bureaucracy. And I've told you time and time and time and time again, it's going to come down to something as ridiculous as this, right? We'll have our drones packaged, ready to send out to the front line. But the guy who takes them from the production line and puts them into the cardboard box and puts the sellotape on, he's sick. And because in the contract, in the bureaucracy, it says that that guy who puts the sellotape over has to be security cleared. It's going to come down to something as ridiculous as that. And then the private soldiers on the front line, they're going to be the ones that have to pay the price. And we're already seeing this. We can't get the battleship ready because the government signed a new contract with the dock workers saying they only have to work 9 till 5. So guess what? Right now, we are preparing for a war, but we're only doing it between the hours of 9 till 5.
No one comes on. Eventually, it is reported the ambassador did come on aircraft and apologise. And this is what. So we can't get a battleship down. We can't get an aircraft up in the ground. HMS Dragon is the only ship we're preventing from crossing the channel. Dinghies come and go as much as you like. A battleship, no, we can't get 22 miles across the channel yet.
So that's where we are, guys. That is literally where we are right now in Britain. And the reason I'm sharing these videos with you, I mean, you've got to laugh about it, right? You've got to laugh about it. The reason I'm sharing these videos with you is because people need to understand where we are, you know, and where we're heading to. All these things are not going away. The civil unrest just because the war in Iran's kicked off doesn't mean that the civil unrest in the United Kingdom's gone away. Just because the war in Iran's kicked off doesn't mean that the conflict in Ukraine has simmered down. No. All these things are going to come together. And this is the state of the government that's leading us. Right. More Nick Ferrari here, guys. We've got Nick Ferrari. Nick Ferrari is on an absolute roll. So let me share this, guys, with Nick Ferrari. We love Nick Ferrari.
Listeners.
Listen, I don't mean to be mean to David Lammy. I don't. I've shared 3 videos today of David Lammy. He is the gift that keeps giving.
There is a growing backlash from some of your colleagues from Labour MPs over your senior colleague Shabana Mahmood's crackdown on asylum and the plan perhaps to pay people £40,000, up to £40,000 if they leave within 7 days. Does Shabana Mahmood have your full unstinting support, Mr. Lammy?
Well, look, I think a lot of your listeners will be concerned that if you're housing asylum seekers, it's 158.
Okay, do you know what's free? Stopping the boats. So all this conversation now and all this flim-flam, they're just shifting focus. The real focus should be stop those fucking boats. Stop those rubber dinghies. If you can't stop the rubber dinghies, if you stop the rubber dinghies, you don't have to pay 158 grand, right? So everything stems from that. And all this talk now, it's taking people's attention away from the real problems. And the real problem, and look, guys, I say this all the time because I do understand that the problems are deeper with migration into the United Kingdom. They're a lot deeper. They're a lot more complicated. However, stopping the boats is the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest fix. And if we can't do that, you know, why are we even having this conversation? Like, why is this thing even a thing? You know, if you guys are in business, sometimes, you know, you're in business and you're trying to bid for stuff and you think, right, okay, we can't bid for that. So let's get the stuff we can get. if you're in a combat situation, you know, and there's a HQ tank, and it's a fire base, and it's decimating everything, and you've got a 5.56 rifle, and you're like, right, well, I can't hit that, it's too far away. And even if I did hit it with my 5.56 rifle, it wouldn't cause any damage. So I'm not even going to bother. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the things I can deal with now quickly that will, you know, that will help the situation. So without stopping the boats, all this is pointless. It's pointless, guys. And I don't know if, and I think this will happen, if, you know, the migrant families or whatever are given £40,000 and then they leave and then they decide to come back, what happens to them then? Do they get put in prison? Do they get refused entry? Well, you can't refuse them entry because they're asylum seekers again. Doesn't matter that you've given them £40,000. If they then decide we want to flee again and they come over, then what happens? Do you give them another £40,000? Do you let them stay that time? How do you stop people coming back? You can't. Without securing the borders, guys, all this is pointless. It's all fake. It's a fugazi.
£1,000 a year to house them in an asylum hotel.
But that's £430 a day, Deputy Prime Minister. That's like, would you put them in the Ritz?
It's £158,000 to house them in an asylum hotel.
£430 a day.
Hashtag Lammy Maths. I would love to have a maths off with David Lammy.
I imagine it's because sometimes we're talking about quite large families. On that basis, this is a pilot. It's a pilot copying what has been happening in Denmark. They have huge success in Denmark in sending people back. 95% hit rate they have in Denmark. Okay. I think the pilot is a good idea.
Has your full support, Deputy Prime Minister?
Absolutely.
So there we are, guys. It's got David Lammy's support, so I'm in. If it's got David Lammy's support, guys, I've got to be in. And again, you know, I want to be quite clear. I'm not pointing my finger here at people who are genuinely fleeing war, and like want to tap out. They want to tap out. They're like, listen, I don't want anything to do with this. If you've ever been to these war zones, I have. I think you see things differently when you've got kids. If you've ever been to these war zones and you've seen like women and children fleeing, having to leave their dads and brothers and husbands behind, and fathers, well, it's a dad, right? That's a terrifying thing, right? That's a terrifying thing. Bye-bye, daddy. When am I going to see you again? Don't know. Don't know when I'm going to see you again. So, of course, you know, people need to be compassionate. However, we need to differentiate between people genuinely fleeing a war zone, right? I don't know if there's any war zones in France. I don't know if France is a war zone. But people fleeing the war in France, because France is clearly a safe place. So they're not asylum seekers by any definition, because to claim asylum, I think you have to claim it in the next safe country. Right, what else have we got? Right, I've got a little video here from Sky News, but I think I'll save that till the end, guys. Let me jump onto the channel. I've got a few more videos. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about the absolute crisis warning in the United Kingdom right now. The future looks peril and dark, and the only things I see coming is chaos and civil conflict. Now, I've got some videos. I've been sharing videos with you guys, and the reason I've been sharing those videos is these are the people that we have in charge of us. These are the people that are making the decisions. And, you know, I'll just let me talk about this again, guys, because I said this previously, but I think this is fair now. We have felt these tensions, that feeling. We felt the unease. We felt the division. We felt the segregation. We felt it all build up over the last years, right? And we are at a tipping point. Whether it happens this year or next year, right now, it doesn't matter because it's definitely going to happen. Now, There was a stabbing in what's it called? Alum Rock? Is it Alum Rock? Alum Rock? Or is it Alum Road? Alum Rock in West Midlands, ladies and gentlemen. West Midlands. We love the West Midlands. There was a knife attack in Alum Rock. Now, if you guys Google Alum Rock, there are places where white people are not allowed after 8 p.m. That's what it says on the walls. I don't know how they enforce that. I don't know whether it's the police who enforce that or whether it's local militias who enforce that. But that is real and that's here. Hang on. I've got to sneeze. Maybe. No. Yes. There's usually 3. No, I think it's 2. No, it's 3. We're good, guys. It's always 3. I'm a triple sneezer, triple tap. Right, before I get onto this, guys, if you're new to the channel, can you please hit those buttons, the like, comment, subscribe, those bell notifications down there, guys, really does help me out when you do that. I'm going to try and get on in the afternoon and do as many videos as I can in the afternoon with different topics, because the media at the moment is fixated on what's happening in Iran, and that's right and proper because it's fucking crazy. However, these things in the United Kingdom are just getting worse, and this is all going to exacerbate things. And right now we have a government that does not seem to be in control. And like I said earlier, we have all felt this unease in the past few years, the unease on our streets, the whispers in our communities. And remember, communities is a code word for something. Flashpoints that erupt, knife attacks in Edinburgh, Birmingham, suspicious devices found in Shropshire, evacuations, lockdowns, families left huddled in fear. This is modern Britain. And let me just be clear, the knife attack in Edinburgh seems to have gone away now. Nobody seems to be talking about it. That man with the 2 knives reportedly tried to get into a nursery. He tried to get into a... What was he going to do? Any suggestions in the comments? What do you think he was going to do? Do you think he was going there to as a gardener? What do you think he was going there for? With 2? These aren't random. These attacks, this is not random, guys, okay? These are symptoms of a deeper problem. A deeper problem that nobody seems to be looking at and nobody seems to address. And everybody in government right now seems to be in absolute denial. There's deeper fractures, and these have been widening for years. I mean, you could argue since 2022. I grew up in Rotherham, so I could argue a lot longer. We have relentless waves of mass migration crossing our borders in small boats, unrecorded, unchecked. Arrivals pushing the system to its absolute breaking point. The sheer scale of this, unchecked, unmanaged, has absolutely destroyed this country already until it's unrecognizable. Housing, schools, NHS, utilities, water, gas, electric. The social fabric is tearing in the United Kingdom. There's no denying that. Over 2,000 arrivals already this year, which is up from 24 and 25. The migrant camp in Calais, it's between Calais and Dunkirk, swelling. Recent reports said there's over 4,500 and more of those will arrive as the weather gets warmer. And all these people want to make it to the United Kingdom, and the French are letting them. And I don't blame the French for letting them. I've been out there, guys. I've seen the situation. I don't blame the French for letting them. When integration lags behind influx, resentment rises. And that's what's happening. I don't think anybody, I don't think anybody would be complaining right now if we were seeing, you know, these people that are coming from foreign countries. I don't think people would be complaining if we saw, you know, Afghan migrant invents new technology, brings thousands of jobs to Britain. Eritrean migrant opens novel new business, employing hundreds and bringing international trade into the community. But we're not seeing that, are we? What are the headlines that you guys are seeing predominantly associated with migrants? What are those headlines? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. Native communities or native Brits feel overlooked. Cultures are clashing. We've seen these sparks turn violent. Neighborhoods are divided by suspicion. Unexplained events. Crime rates rising. We are not heading towards a powder keg. We are in a powder keg. Whatever analogy you guys want to think, we are in it right now. Tinderbox, powder keg. When we see the backgrounds of these people and the global conflicts that are now seeping into our streets, hybrid threats of war, social anxiety, there'll be another incident. There'll be another incident. What if it tips us into a broader civil conflict between communities? We already know that the police in West Midlands are, you know, I could argue overrun. This will be pitting neighbour against neighbour, community against community in a cycle of retaliation, fear and violence. I don't feel this is scaremongering, guys. I think everybody needs to understand the situation that we are in. And the first step to stop this, before anybody can talk about an off-ramp, is, well, not unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. Like, without being able to stop the boats, all this talk of, oh, we're going to do this scheme. Oh, we're going to do this scheme. And Shabina Mahmood going over to Denmark with a little meeting, smiling. Hi, everyone. What do you do? I tell you what, Shabina, stop the boats. You don't need to go to Denmark to see that. If we can't stop the boats, it's all diddly squat. It doesn't mean anything. And all this dialogue about these different policies that the government are implementing, it's all just taking the, you know, it's all taking the, you know, it's all taking people's, consciousness away from the real problem, right? And the real visual marker is stopping the boats. And every time I say stopping the boats, I need to caveat that with, I understand there are bigger problems. I understand that legal migration is out of control. There's so many problems. I understand them all. But the main visual, like the easiest one to stop, right? The easiest one to stop is the boats. It's like I could do it within 6 hours. Well, do you know what? I said I could do it within, you know what? I used to say I could do it within 6 hours, right? Looking at how long it takes to get a Royal Navy ship to move, maybe it would take more than 6 hours, but I'm pretty confident I could stop this in 6 hours. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I don't see an off-ramp. Do you know why I don't see an off-ramp? I've done previous videos. I've talked about the rubber dinghies going back. We've talked. Let me just give you this one. I'm just conscious of the time. Let me give you guys this one, right? A long time ago, I did a video and I said, in fact, I've just done a members only video. Actually, I've not posted it yet. I did a video a long time ago, and I said, where are they getting all these life jackets from? Because in my innocence, I guess, I thought that all those life jackets that come off the migrants will be, you know, impounded and then destroyed because it's criminal evidence, right? And that's what it would be doing. However, I shared the video with you guys. A couple of like, I don't know, couple of weeks later, there was a video out by Chris Philp, or I think that's his name, Chris Philp, and he was out on the, I think it was, or it might have been Farage, I think it was Chris Philp, and he's out on the channel in a fishing boat or whatever, and they're monitoring the conversation between these two guys, between the RNLI and the French border force or whatever. I don't know who it is. Might be the Navy, but I don't know. But they're monitoring the communications, and the French get on and they say on the radio and they say, I don't know, Royal Navy or whatever it is, border force, whatever. This is the French vessel. Can you return 48 life jackets? I was like, what? So if that's not government, if that's not the government's being complicit, tell me what is. If that's not the government in Britain helping the migrants come over, can somebody give me another explanation for it? Do you know what? You need to see this video. Give me a second, guys. Let me get this video up. Give me a second. It'll be worth it, guys. Give me a second. Right. I think this is it. Right. I think this is it. Let me share this with you.
Approaching the French warship escorting the migrant dinghy has just this moment entered UK waters. You can see up here Border Force Typhoon approaching the French warship in order to presumably pick up the migrants.
And then this happened.
Border Force Typhoon French warship. Good morning, everybody. I'm proceeding with my rib to civil the embarkment on board your ship, and I would like to get back 60 life jackets that I gave to the rib proceeding to your ship.
French warship, Border Force Typhoon, can you just confirm the number of life jackets you issued? Over.
60.
French warship, Border Force Typhoon, all copied, sir. We shall embark and then prepare that for your rib. Typhoon listening. Out.
Thank you.
So it is just astonishing that the French authorities are handing out life jackets and then retrieving them to recycle as they essentially facilitate illegal immigration across the channel. This has to end. The French authorities must begin to stop these boats close to French shores, just like the Belgians do, because they are encouraging and facilitating this dangerous traffic.
Okay, so think about that, right? Think about, again, this could be fake. This could be AI. I don't think it is. Chris Philp, he's a member of parliament. He's a conservative member of parliament. And I think this is I think this is a credible video. Look, we don't know what's real anymore, right? They've sent, so this is, it really, like, so if you're trying to visualize what's happening in the United Kingdom right now, and you think that giving 40,000, all these little schemes, they don't mean anything. Unless you can stop these boats, they mean nothing, guys. I promise you, if you can't, right? If 1,000 people are coming and you're giving, and you're paying people you're paying a family 40 grand to leave, and it's a success. It means nothing if they can get on a boat and come back, right? Now, if you think that there's going to be some law passed, something happen where, we're going to stop the boats, both governments here are involved. Now, Chris Philp is saying that the French government should stop them. Well, how about the British government say, no, we're not handing you those life jackets back? How does this even happen?
French warship. Good morning, everybody. Just I'm proceeding with my rib to settle the.
So, do you know what? This is actually worse than I thought. So what he's doing then is he's coming to the. He's on a little ship there. Look, you can see it. You can see it. You can see it there. That's the admin back. That's the admin truck. So that's like the dinghy. That's like the dinghy. That's like the life jacket dinghy. He's just cruising around giving people life jackets. So the French are sending out a RIB, rigid inflatable boat, to come and collect the life jackets for the next lot. 60.
Embarkment on board your ship, and I would like to get back 60 life jackets that I gave to the RIB proceeding to your ship.
So he's asking. So he's saying, right, you've got the migrants now, you've got them safe. I need to come and get the life jackets for the rest of them. So he said this to the British captain or whatever it is, and the British captain's like, yes, let me know how many that is again.
French warship, Border Force Typhoon, can you just confirm the number of life jackets you issued? Over.
60.
French warship, Border Force Typhoon, all copied, sir. We shall embark and then prepare that for your RIB. Typhoon listening, out.
Thank you.
So it is just astonishing that the French authorities are handing out life jackets and then retrieving them.
And what's just as astonishing is the complicitness of Britain by giving those life jackets back. All this, all the life jackets, all the boats, they should be brought to Britain and destroyed. So all this flim-flammer and everything that's going on right now, it all means nothing, because if we can't stop those boats, guys, and it's very easy to stop those boats, real easy, like real easy. You could probably get fishermen to do it for free. If you can't stop those boats, then things are just going to continue to get worse. We're already at that critical point now. We're already at that critical, we've reached the critical mass. Things are just getting worse. Another metric of things getting worse. Now, I'm not going to share with you guys the video because it's quite graphic. But there's something going around the United Kingdom at the moment called, oh, hang on a minute. Claire Angel Myers-Koff. Am I saying that right? Claire Angel Myers-Koff has just become a new member. Thank you, Claire, for becoming a member, and all the members, ladies and gentlemen. I love all the members. We're getting a powerful members team, guys. So thank you so much, Claire, for becoming a member. I hope you're going to be a great and powerful contributor to this channel. So all these men, let me get this thing back on about, where is it? Is it that one? Is it that one? Yeah, this one. Right. So all this talk about, you know, well, this, for example. This is all meaningless unless you can stop those boats, right? Earlier on the live stream, I gave the analogy. I said, listen, right? Right now, the United Kingdom is like, imagine you've got a cut on your leg, right? Imagine you've got a cut on your leg and you're laid there in hospital, right? And there's blood seeping out of your leg. And one doctor says, yes, we should, we need to put a bucket under there to catch the blood. And then another doctor's like, no, eventually the bucket will overflow. We need a sponge. We need to sponge it up so it doesn't overflow. And then the other doctor's like, no, we need to catch it in a funnel and funnel it into the hazmat bin. All the time you're bleeding, right? And then they're like, yes, let's have a vote on what we should do. No, you need to stop the bleeding at source and then you can deal with the blood. So all these things, you know, like what I'm going to share with you guys now, this is all a waste of time. It's to get people talking about something that's not even relevant. if we can't stop the boats, what does this matter? Because the people will just get, right, here's 40 grand. Thank you very much. Right, off you go. Yeah, let's go back to Britain. If we can't stop them coming back, what are they going to do? They're just going to come back to Britain. They'll be in a hotel with 40 grand in their pocket.
We do have a government now that cannot get a battleship ready and can't even get an aircraft off the ground in time because they hadn't given the pilot enough rest.
Right, this is not the video that I was going to share with you guys. However, it does highlight the problems that we have right now in the United Kingdom, like the mass amounts of incompetency at government level.
And the Deputy Prime Minister didn't even know how many people were on board. Let's look it up and get the number ourselves. It'll be somewhere in the region of 200 to 300. And they were left reportedly banging on the windows, some of them banging on the windows in panic because they weren't told what was going on. Imagine you're stuck on an aircraft in a very hostile zone. So, and you can't get off the aircraft. I mean, it's bad enough.
So what he's talking about here is the emergency flight that was due to bring Brits home from, I think it was, where was it? Oman, evacuate people from the Middle East. Well, it turns out that flight, they didn't give the pilot enough, he didn't have enough rest. And the people, look, guys, you know what it's like when you're on a plane and it's not moving. You're sat there like that, your knees are up. I think like they didn't know what was happening. Nobody was, they just left them. Absolutely disgusting. Like if that happened in the military, you would have a shit sandwich. Like the shit, like honestly, it's so inept. And you know what makes things even worse? I've been writing to the government, telling them what's coming since 2023. I've been writing to the government, and very soon I think I'm going to release. I'm either going to go to the press or I'm just going to publish it. I'll publish it online somewhere. I'll say, look, these are the letters I've wrote to the government, telling them about drone warfare, telling them about Ukraine, telling them about what's happening in the Middle East. Nobody cares. So when they say they don't know, trust me, they do. They just don't listen. Right, this is the video I was going to share with you. So when we're talking about stopping the boats, when we're talking about all these new policies, right? If you can't stop the boats, none of this matters.
There is a growing backlash from some of your colleagues from Labour MPs over your senior colleague Shabana Mahmood's crackdown on asylum and the plan perhaps to pay people
£40,000 to leave the country. And look, ladies and gentlemen, right, if you're in the United Kingdom right now, if somebody said to me, Sean, I'll pay you 40 grand to leave the country, I'd say, yep, where do I sign? Where do I sign? Where do I sign? Like, I think there's a legal case here. I think there's a legal case that if you live in the United Kingdom and you want to emigrate, I think the government should give you 40 grand as well. I mean, essentially, that's bringing down, net migration, right? Because more people are leaving the country. So if they're paying people to leave the country 40 grand, I'll be first in the line.
£40,000 up to £40,000 if they leave within 7 days. Does Shabana Mahmood have your full unstinting support, Mr. Lammy?
Well, look,
I love Nick Ferrari. Nick Ferrari's great. We love Nick Ferrari.
I think a lot of your listeners will be concerned that if you're housing asylum seekers, it's 150.
Okay, if you don't let them in, you don't have to house them. You do not have to house them. So all those people that were coming over on the boats, I don't know what we're saying here. I don't know where they're getting 158 grand from, but whatever. Can you imagine how much that's costing? Don't let them in. Stop. Ballydadak. Go. We're full.
£8,000 a year to house them in an asylum hotel.
But that's £430 a day, Deputy Prime Minister. That's like, would you put them in the Ritz?
It's 158,000 to house them in an asylum hotel.
£430 a day.
I imagine it's because sometimes we're talking about quite large families. On that basis, this is a pilot. It's a pilot copying
quite large families. Think about that. Think about that. When you're struggling to put food on the table for your kids, think about that.
What has been happening in Denmark. They have huge success in Denmark in sending people back. 95% hit rate they have in Denmark.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
I think the pilot is a good idea.
Has your full support, Deputy Prime Minister?
Absolutely.
So David Lammy's absolutely, has David Lammy's full support. Now, if we're talking about David Lammy and, his some of the gaffes he's done, he's been fantastic today, David Lammy. So he also said this.
Side our allies, I should say, because Cyprus is part of NATO.
Cyprus is not part of NATO. This is the man that is second in command of our country, the Deputy Prime Minister. Doesn't even know that NATO is not doesn't even know that Cyprus is not a NATO country.
The French, the Germans and others have also sent frigates to the region to support those in Cyprus. Well, the safety of that base is essential, and it's not just a base that serves the United Kingdom, it serves the region, and of course we work very much with our allies because Cyprus is a NATO country.
Okay, just so everybody knows, just so David knows, NATO is not, David Lammy doesn't know what he's talking about there, then a bit embarrassing, I couldn't get it out. NATO, yeah, I said it because I'm going down that road, does not have any country as part of its alliance that's called or sounds like Cyprus. Therefore, Cyprus is not part of NATO, ladies and gentlemen. They are not part of NATO at all. That is the second in command of our country. He is the one that could be holding the nuclear launch codes very soon. Like, if that doesn't terrify everybody, I really don't know what does. Right, listen, guys, let me, I am going to start to close this down now. You guys have been, listen, there's loads of people on the chat. Listen, can you all make sure you hit those buttons down below, the like, comment, subscribe, bell notification, because I did this I'm going to try and get on in the, in the daytime as much as I can, because things are moving so fast now. We've got this, we've got the war in Iran. Doesn't look like things are getting any better there. In fact, you know what? I'm not, because I've got something else to show you, actually. Let me show, where is it? Is it that one? Yeah, right. Let me share with you this, because this I feel is pushing the United Kingdom into civil war. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is something called school wars. Like, this is like horrific. I can only assume that this originated. Look, and we'll find out soon. I can only assume that this originates from near-peer adversaries. And I'm looking at the font here, and I feel this is Middle Eastern. I feel this is like Middle Eastern. I'm looking at the fonts, and I think this is, I would say this is coming from, okay, if I was working as an advisor to the government, I would say that the likelihood that this comes from somewhere like Iran is high. The red and the blue, the visuals, this is this looks to me very Middle Eastern. It looks like something you would see coming from the Middle East. Now, what they're trying to achieve with these school wars, what they're trying to achieve is they're trying to cause civil war in the United Kingdom. All right. When you're in the military, when you're doing something called FIBUA, fighting in built-up area, your initial phase is your investment phase, right? So, and you don't want to start that attack until your investment phase is complete, right? So just think about a village, right? Think about a village or a town or whatever. You need to invest your manpower and your assets into that location before you start the attack. It goes without saying, but what I mean is, you shouldn't start that. Sometimes it happens. You shouldn't start your attack until all the manpower is in that village or that town or whatever. Now, the reason you don't do that is because if you start the attack before all your manpower is in that village, that manpower may get cut off and they may not be able to get in because they may be like, they may be dealing with something themselves. So you want to get all your manpower in that village, before you start that attack, right? Now, if you're in the United Kingdom, it does look like we are having an influx of manpower, right? Yeah, this is a military operation. However, you can start that attack early if you believe you've got sufficient manpower and there are outside circumstances. So, for example, let's give it in a tactical situation, tactical scenario, right? You're in the village or the town. Your guys are still coming in. But for some reason you get spotted and somebody starts firing artillery at you or something. You need to start the attack. You've no choice. You have to start the attack. Now, I'm just really conscious about the emergence of school wars and the war in Iran. I think the timing is too convenient. And I do believe that this school wars is asymmetric warfare, and it is near peer adversaries trying to cause civil war in the United Kingdom. And the likelihood is they will succeed, because these things obviously spread out, don't they? When people start doing this, look, we're only one throw away from. Right, we had school wars, but Johnny and Macca, the brothers from number 42, they were going crackers. So guess what? The school are going to turn up to Johnny and Macca's house. They're going to turn over Johnny and Macca's house. Right, their mums and dads are angry now, so the mums and dads are then going to turn over somebody else's house. You see where this goes, guys? You see where this goes? It doesn't end well. This does not end well, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't. Claire's. The videos are awful, guys. The videos are absolutely awful. Tim Linsky is saying, Sean, you could take the 40 grand, buy a house in Spain for 15 grand, register, find a job with 25 grand in the bank for a year or two. Yeah, literally, like, do native Brits get 40 grand to leave? Manpower to build what? 5,000? I don't know what that means, man. I don't know what that means. What does this button do? I don't know. Hang on, guys. I've just got a message. Give me a sec. Sorry, some work I have to do. Right, let me jump up and get some comments in the chat, guys. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are on for the first time, make sure you hit those buttons down below, because I really, really appreciate each and every one of your buttons. Katie Heath is saying, will Reform win the next election in 3 years from now? Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I would say it's going to be a hung parliament. I think Reform are going to do really well. I'm a little bit So you've got the rise of Rupert Lowe and his party, Restore. So I hope that they can come together closer to the election and say, look, we're standing in these seats. You stand your guys down in those seats. I hope that can happen, because what I don't want to see is I don't want to see that vote split. Reform is they're the leading one. They're the high rollers. Elon Musk maybe funding. What's the name? Restore Britain. So first of all, I don't know. What I do know is that think how bad things will be up until the next election. Think how bad things will get until the next election. And even when the next election is won or lost by Reform, there's no guarantee that anyone can stop the boats. Right, guys, I'm literally just jumping down. I'm going to get the last few comments before I have to go. Alex Blue is saying a bottle of wine in Tesco's has more security than... Yeah, cheese as well. They've got cheese on, haven't they? I've seen I've seen the bottles of wine. Yeah, bottles of wine in Tesco have more, have more security on. Mark with a fantastic beard. Mark, that is a fantastic beard. I've got a lot of him. I've got a lot of. I'm very, very impressed with your beard. Mark is saying Nigel will sell us out. He wants to privatize the NHS and have it like the NHS. Oh, right, Mark. Listen, I do see the argument for privatizing the NHS. I really do, guys. I do. I absolutely see the argument for privatizing the NHS. I understand that people, it sounds bad. Right, I haven't got time to go into that, guys. Listen, I'm just jumping down. I am just jumping down. Sean is saying Farage is a backstabber, establishment all over Tory Mark II. Listen, what we understand, well, hang on. What we've got to understand is we are not in normal times right now. We are not living through normal times. The media, everything, all the media focus right now is on the Middle East, and quite rightly so, because it's absolutely bonkers. It's going to affect each and every person in the United Kingdom. It really is. It's going to affect people in the United Kingdom. Oh, right. In fact, hang on. I've got one. I keep saying this. Right? I've got one more video, and then I've got through them all. Right. So we're talking about the Middle East. So let me just share this with you guys.
Through the Persian Gulf, around the Straits. I want to talk about something that hasn't been much discussed so far, which is kind of this pragmatic question about oil producers. So you'll know that, within the Gulf, a lot of these countries they're petrostates, aren't they? So they produce a lot of oil. They pump it out of the ground. Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. And what happens after they've pumped it out of the ground? Well, they load it onto tankers. So they pump it out of the ground, it gets loaded onto tankers, and those oil tankers, those big tankers, go around, down south through the Persian Gulf, around the Straits of Hormuz. That's the theory, and then the story ends. But in this case, it can't get through the Straits because the Strait is effectively closed, raising the question, what happens next? And the short answer is oil starts to build up. It builds up in these terminals where they can't get it out. But here's the issue. In these countries, there is only so much storage. So have a look at this. This chart is showing you how many days worth of storage these countries have before they have a bit of a problem. So Iraq, 6 days, Kuwait, 14, UAE, 19, Qatar, 20, Saudi, 65. And what's the problem they have? Well, if they exhaust that storage, then they have to do something radical. They basically have to stop production. And stopping production in an oil field is not like flicking a switch. You can potentially cause long-term damage to the whole geology of the area. That's kind of what's happened in Venezuela recently. And so the longer this goes on, the greater the risk that the single most important part of the economy there is damaged permanently. I want to talk about...
Yeah, so what he's saying there is, and he's right, nobody really has given the foresight of this. When you close these things down, especially the gas oil separation plants and the wellheads, you can't just turn them back on, right? If you think about a wellhead, at a rudimentary level, right? And I'm just going to run through this real quick. A submerged, a pump submerged, I don't know, in the ground, 100 meters, whatever, 100, just visualize it. 100 meters down, there's a pump, and it's submerged. If you stop that pump, it's not moving. It's going to start to clog up because the oil is going to go in. It's going to start to, there's going to be a lot of problems with that, and you can't just turn it back on. You have to send an engineer out there. He has to refurbish it. They have to sort all that. And I used to work on the oil fields in one of those regions in southern Iraq, in Basra. And they have big problems with this. They have big problems when they're fully operational. So can you imagine if these petrostates have to stop oil production? Guys, I promise you, the price of the petrol pump is going to go north of £2 a litre. I can guarantee that. It's going to happen slowly. It will go north of £2 a litre. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we buy all our oil from, we buy all our petrol and our oil from Norway, right? And Norway get that out of our go on. garden out of our sea. Right, listen, guys, I am going to close this down now. I am. Like I was saying, you know, there's a lot of stuff happening. I just wanted to do a live stream and talk about what's happening in the United Kingdom. I will be back on. I'm going to try and get back on later on today, before 8 o'clock, if I can. Yes, right, okay. Because the stuff about aliens is real, guys, all right? I still do see aliens coming. I do, or being told at least aliens are on their way. And I do feel that's on its way. Right, anyway, listen, I don't know if I've covered everything. I think I've covered everything. I've certainly got through all the videos. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are not living in normal times. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm starting to do members-only videos as well, guys. It's not, you know, it just... The members-only videos that I do, I'm just articulating things I've said in the live streams, but a little bit more articulated, because on the live streams, the chat gets a little bit wild, so I'm doing that. So if you are considering becoming a member, you are most welcome. I'll catch you guys later.